Okay, so today we'll be discussing episode 5 of the Kenobi series. We have one more episode to go. I'll be using gameplay clips from Obi-Wan in the Revenge of the Sith game. I tried to use clips from the show, but the video got claimed and it wouldn't get put up. I tried it again, it still wouldn't get put up. I didn't want to put the dancing anime girl over all of the clips, so I'm just going to put gameplay in and put a clip here and there just to show my points further. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So, like we talked about in the last review, Obi-Wan, Leia, and the rest of the Path, which is the group that they are currently with. Now, I'm pretty sure that it's the earlier, formations of the rebellion, the more radicalized areas of it. I didn't know that it was called the Path. I did a little bit of looking into it. I don't know if it's called the Path in episode 4. It definitely isn't in episode 5 because that's not brought up at all. But Reva is promoted to Grand Inquisitor. Now this was a scene that was really interesting to me. At first I was like, well, what did she do to get promoted? All I could see, as far as I could tell, was that she was able to track down Obi-Wan, which is a really big thing. But I think Reva should have been able to be like, this is kind of fishy, and it seems like she's just so focused in on, oh, I got promoted, that she's not really thinking. But anyway, she goes to Jabim as well, and she is attacking the facility, and Obi-Wan talks to Reva. Now, this is a very interesting scene, because Reva is someone who has been very antagonistic towards Obi-Wan this entire series, right? Now, Obi-Wan is known as the negotiator, so on a level, it makes sense. Now, if this was Anakin, obviously, this would never work. If it was Mace Windu, maybe not even Yoda. I don't even see Yoda having a scene like this, because Yoda can kind of be smug at some points. But anyway, they're able to talk, and Reva sort of calmed down a little bit, and they sort of have this candid conversation. Turns out Reva was a youngling, and Anakin somehow just didn't kill her, but killed all of her friends, and apparently she played dead. Maybe he gassed her stomach a little bit, and she just fell over, and he just accepted it and was too busy just moving on. Was just so emotionally unstable at the time that he couldn't get through this. Now, this is something that got leaked, and that's how people were like, oh, so that's how she knows Vader's identity. So it turns out that Reva this whole time has been trying to get at Vader, and she's had a lot of opportunities, and when Obi-Wan's like, hey, I'll give you a shot at him, she's like, well, I could have already, well, she doesn't even say that. I was thinking that she could have already done something about it, and she just didn't, and she should have brought that up, but she's like, oh, I don't need your help, which she clearly does, but we'll get into that later. But anyway, Reva doesn't want to talk anymore, and so she attacks the facility, cuts the doors open, the doors come open, and Obi-Wan is pretty much deflecting blaster bolts from like 20 people, and there's people around him shooting. This is probably the only Jedi where it would ever make sense for something like this to happen, just given the nature of his form, Sarisu, and given the fact that he is the master of it. I can accept that he was able to block that many blaster bolts. There weren't like a huge amount of people shooting at him, which is weird. Maybe they were told like, hey, you gotta leave him alive. In fact, that would make the most sense. Vader was like, hey, do not kill Obi-Wan. Like, you can shoot at him, but shoot to incapacitate, not to kill. Now, we've had a couple scenes interwoven through with Anakin and Obi-Wan dueling. This was really awesome. I'm glad that they were able to use Hayden Christensen and not just have him just in the Vader costume. That would really suck. It also wouldn't make any sense for them to bring him in if they weren't going to use him. He looks a little old. I know that he's not going to look exactly like he did in Attack of the Clones, which is the era that we get the flashback from, but it's sort of like they CGI'd him young, but left parts of him looking like he does now, which, I mean, he's not insanely old. I don't even think he's 40 yet, but still, he looks older than he did in Revenge of the Sith, and so it's a little confusing, especially when Obi-Wan's like, you'll be a Padawan until you get yourself together, and it looks like he's older than Obi-Wan for a second. It's just is really weird. But anyway, a big point of that is Anakin knocks Obi-Wan's lightsaber out of his hands and says, "Admit it, you're beaten," right? And so then we get a flashback to Vader standing on the bridge of Star Destroyer, and then Obi-Wan is standing in the room that is blocked off from the Empire. Oh, a thing I forgot to add, because I was so focused in on the Anakin duel, is the fact that Tala died and she got shot. The droid fell on top of her. The loader droid, he also got shot. And so she pulls out a thermal detonator and saves herself, saves Obi-Wan, and sacrifices herself. This is really interesting. She got shot with a blaster bolt, but somehow she was bleeding, like she had blood on her hand. It was really odd. I'm not going to show it here because of the YouTube rules about that. I'm not 100% sure. I need to learn those a little bit better. But anyway, that happens, and of course she's, gone because she blew up the room. I don't know how Reva survived. She probably used like force speed just to get out of the room and just left all the clones in there, because there are a lot of dead clones in that room when they go back in there. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. Obi-Wan surrenders right after the flashback of Obi-Wan saying, "Oh, give up, you've lost your weapon," and he gives his comlink, his blaster, and his lightsaber to Haja. Now this is pretty important because it will come up later. And he goes out, and Roken stops him and says, "Hey, how will you fight without a lightsaber?" And he goes, "There's more than one way to fight," right? Or something like that, something to that effect. I'm just paraphrasing. And then he walks out there, surrenders, and goes to talk to Reva, right? And he's like, "Hey, I can bring you closer to Vader, and then you can make your move." It's weird. She's been close to Vader all this time. She, in the Inquisitorius, when she was getting trained, she's already fully trained now as an Inquisitor. Why didn't she take her shot back on the Star Destroyer when her and Vader were talking? And we see later, it's not like she has this big plan to take him down. She just strikes out at him. You could have come up with something better. You didn't have to rush it. But anyway, Reva sends Obi-Wan back inside, and Vader shows up. So Vader walks in, and there's a ship about to take off. So Vader grabs the ship and pulls it down, and starts ripping apart the ship. And while he's doing this, another ship takes off, and Vader just watches it. Now I don't know if he was just so confused as to how he didn't see it, that he was just like, what's going on? I'll just let them go, honestly, because I can't even see why he would just watch them. I guess Palpatine won't be too mad about this. But as he's standing there, Reva tries to sneak up on him and slash him, and obviously it doesn't work, and he stops her. Right? Now, I don't know why she thought this would work. I was genuinely sitting there watching this what do you do? And you have a lightsaber. It's not like a sword, right? She could have walked up to him the same way Vader did the Starkiller. Just had the sword, ignited it, boom, it's already through him. Now, obviously, she wouldn't be able to do that. A, because he's Vader, and B, because he's in the original trilogy, and this is 9 years before that. But still, she could have had a better plan, and it just didn't work at all. So after that, Reva tries to strike out at Vader, and we can see the clear power gap between them. I mean, it was so embarrassing for her. Oh, Vader doesn't even look like he's considering pulling out his lightsaber. He just dodges around, and dodges around. It just keeps going, right? He's just making a fool out of her. And then he decides, oh, okay, you've done all this stuff. Here's what I'm gonna do. Reva starts spinning her lightsaber, and Vader reaches out with the Force, slows it down, takes the lightsaber from her, snaps it in half, and throws her at half. Now, if Reva was smart, she would have just ran away at this point. Like, you clearly can't beat this man. He was dodging all your strikes easily. But she picks it up and starts fighting him. And then she loses, and Vader runs her through with a saber. So then she falls and hits the ground. And guess who walks out? The Grand Inquisitor. I was right. He's obviously not dead. Okay? You can't see me, but I'm blowing up party balloons as we speak. Now, this was so obviously not going to be the death of the Grand Inquisitor. Like, I didn't even consider for a second. Like, obviously he's going to come back. Like, we've had precedent for people coming back from those types of injuries before. In fact, the only guy who I can think of that's really died from something like that has been Qui-Gon. And Qui-Gon was extremely exhausted, and he was just, like, he was pretty old. And not only that, he was very much in tune with the will of the Force. And the Force was probably like, hey, Qui-Gon, it's your time. And Qui-Gon was like, oh, okay. Alright, bye, Obi-Wan. Like, so it's different. Like, I can see how someone would be like, what? How was he able to do that? Like, how is he able to just shake it off? He's probably spent so much time in Bacta, and that's why he hasn't been around for so long. It's because he just recovered. So then he takes the Grand Inquisitor badge off of Reva. It was a really good moment when he did that. Just thematically, it looked so cool. I'm just a big fan of the Grand Inquisitor. I really liked him. Seeing him in Rebels, seeing how cool he was. And then Reva, who's been ran through, finds the comlink that Obi-Wan gave to Haja. And there's a recorded message on there from Bail, which I didn't even know that you could leave messages for people. I thought it was like a live calling thing. But anyway, there's a message from Bail where he's like, hey, I think that he could discover the kids, talking about Vader. I'm worried about Luke on Tatooine. Something to that effect. I'm, again, paraphrasing. It was really weird that he would name the planet. Because, like, what if something like this happens? What if the comlink is found by an Imperial agent? You know? Like, these things could happen. Obi-Wan's not the man he once was. And so, there's always that chance that something goes incredibly wrong, and then you got intel about Luke Skywalker in the Empire's hands, which would have been disastrous if they found him at the age of 10. Like, there'd be no way the Jedi would have won the war at all. But all in all, I thought it was a pretty good episode. I really enjoyed it. The fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin was awesome. I loved it. Like, the things like that are what I wanted to see, right? Like, I want to see, like, the Battle of Jabin. I want to see so many, like, things. Also, we don't get, like, enough of the Clone Wars, like, from, like, outside of the show. And even in Legends, we had the miniseries. But, like, I'd like to see more of, like, the Clone Wars as, like, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. Or even, like, some, like, flashback where they, like, do some little adventure, like, from Jedi Quest. I'd love that. Just to see more of Hayden and Ewan McGregor all these years later would be absolutely awesome. It would just blow me away. And I think there's a lot of potential for that, and I think that they should do that. I really like how Obi-Wan was in this episode. You know, a lot of people are calling him dumb and stupid, saying that he's being led around. Well, I mean, he's pretty much in charge for this entire episode, so I don't know what people are going to say. And he gets everybody away on time. Now, the hyperdrive on the ship is broken, and that's going to be a problem. But, you know, that'll be dealt with in episode 6, I'm sure. Now, Leia did fix the doors of the hangar. That was something I left out. And Lola got her little chip that was like sort of an inhibitor chip. She got that removed by Leia. Leia found it within like 5 seconds. So I thought there was going to be like a mini boss battle. Like in that one episode of Clone Wars with the evil R2 and the real R2. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. I thought there was going to be something along that line, but there wasn't. And the Lola storyline got cut short really fast. She got found out really fast. Lola was not a very good Imperial probe. But yeah, I liked what Obi-Wan did. I mean, he didn't have to duel anybody. All he had to do was block a couple blaster bolts, and he worked really well. He stalled Reva for a good amount of time, and was pretty instrumental with getting all those people off the planet. Like I said, I mean, he accomplished his goal. I'm sure he's gonna fight Vader in the next episode. I mean, at this point, he's gonna have to, since it's the last episode. And you know, when we last met, I was but the learner. Now, I am the master. You know, things of that nature. So that'll be really interesting. And I don't know what's gonna happen with Reva, considering she's gonna be headed to Tatooine. Because she's not gonna die here. She's probably gonna die in either the next episode or she's gonna become a Jedi. In fact, I don't even think she'll die because she's been going through this like insane injury. It just wouldn't make any sense narratively to instantly kill her the next episode. So it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing. Alright, thank you guys for watching. This went on a little bit longer than I expected it to, so I'm going to end it off here. Goodbye.